Good evening. My name is Tony McNeil. I am coming to you today in order to hold a conversation with some of our community residents and community leaders surrounding um, the pandemic. Every month, we have what is called a COVID conversation. And today we are holding our COVID conversation with some pretty important folks. So let me pull in. I got some folks in the green room. There they are. Yay! So first of all, let me introduce myself, like for real. So my name is Tony McNeil. Once again, I am the founder and the host of Anti-Black Conversations. And look, I got stuck because I hold so many, like, yeah, I do a whole lot. Anyway, I am the founder and the host of Anti-Black Conversations. And it's a space that we have like real, raw conversations surrounding anti-Blackness in the community and from a whole lot of different perspectives. We opted to hold a space for COVID conversations because of the impact that COVID had or is having in the Black community, and just the different nuances that there are surrounding COVID, surrounding the vaccine, surrounding the pandemic. Um, so today we are having a conversation with some of our community residents and some of our community's leaders surrounding a seasoned perspective. We want to talk about the impact that COVID has had on our seniors in the communities of color and the Black and Brown community. So I want to start off by introducing everyone that is here. I'm toggling in between two hats today. So I am also speaking from a community organizing role and hat. And in order to make sure I hold that space down solid, I've invited Pastor Nelson to come in. He is representing Faith in the Valley, whoop, whoop, and the work that is being done with the COVID and educating the community. So I'm going to go around. I'm going to start off by asking Pastor Nelson to introduce himself, and then if you can pick someone to introduce yourself. I always have to say, preachers, they talk long. Pastor Nelson,
That's
the
true,
member.
Elder Tony. That's true. Thank you, Tony, for inviting us for this event. And what a wonderful panel you have put together. So I'm Reverend Nelson Rabel. I am currently working with Faith in the Valley in education and providing information to the community, mostly for the Spanish-speaking community in our area in the Central Valley. And also, I'm the pastor of Iglesia Luterana Santa Maria Peregrina, St. Mary the Pilgrim Lutheran Church in Stockton, an independent Lutheran church, Spanish-speaking congregation. So, Mary Davis.
Thank you, Reverend Nelson. Hi, everyone. My name is Mary Davis. I am the outreach specialist for the REACH COVID flu grant, working with public health advocates. And I'm so honored to be here with you guys tonight. And I thank you so much for joining us again. And thank you, Elder Tony, for having myself and Chris on here with you. And I'll go ahead and popcorn it to Elder Penny. It's so nice to see you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Tony, and everyone for inviting me into this space. My name is Elder Penny McConnell, and I'm here representing the Victory and Praise Church and the Victory and Praise Community Development Center. And I will popcorn it to Mrs. Bivens.
Well, thank you, Elder Penny. I'm here representing the NAACP Stockton branch, and somehow I've gotten the title of the COVID expert, and so I will accept it. I'm also the founder of a new nonprofit. We've been in existence for 2 years, Equity Alliance Group, and our purpose is to develop African American leadership. So I'm really excited about that and doing that, and excited to be here in this platform and share some of my thoughts and wisdom. And with that, I am going to popcorn it to my friend, Miss Tama.
Thank you, Luana. Welcome to Stockton Squares. I see I'm in the top square. Because when Tony does these things, whether it's the anti-Black or it's COVID or it's the Queen conversation, we're going to do this Hollywood Squares kind of thing. So it's just fun to see everybody here. Thank you so much, Tony.
And today's color is yellow.
I'm Jane. I am Stockton's Poet Laureate. I am the Executive Director of With Our Words, and I am the San Joaquin County Coordinator for California Poets in the Schools. And I am, like several of my brethren here, a COVID survivor.
Next off.
Let me get my stopwatch out because I'm about to popcorn it to Reverend Rebel.
Oh no, he went already. He did good. See,
Oh, crap.
he went so fast that you didn't even know he went, right? Which totally blows the mind.
Got skills. Okay, well, Chris and Tony, come on.
So I introduce myself. My name is Chris Cannon. I'm the program manager for the REACH COVID and Flu Grant. And what we do is we put on educational events and vaccine events around the city of Stockton. And next year, we're expanding out to San Joaquin County. So I'm very excited to be here with all y'all today.
So bringing it back today, first of all, thanks everybody. I want to just thank all of y'all for being here and being a part of this conversation. So bringing it back, what I wanted to do is just kind of let's frame this because we are going to just talk. We're going to talk our way through this from 2020 to now. In order to just really kind of get a real understanding. And like I said, this conversation is called a seasoned perspective. I at first thought, yeah, a senior perspective. No, we wanted a seasoned wisdom. This is wise and wisdom walking perspective surrounding this pandemic and what it has done to our seniors. So just throwing stuff out there. So one, who is seasoned in this space. I think my dad was going to be joining us and we had some technical difficulties. I'm going to represent you, Daddy, because I was sitting right there with you, the whole way through. So I'm going to represent my dad, y'all, to the best of my ability. Try not to throw him under the bus too much. But COVID survivors, who survived COVID? Okay. Wow. I'm amazed. Yes. I 2 years I didn't get it and then finally caught it. And I got it at the White House. The White House. That's a whole different yeah, look at that part, Chris. Anyway, so Tama, you survived COVID. Mrs. Bivens, so you and Mr. Bivens, you guys were able to actually just get through without being impacted by COVID?
That's correct.
Wow. Okay, you guys are. So, who has had loved ones that have been directly impacted by COVID?
I'm pretty sure we all have.
Okay.
That's how I got it.
And then another question, and it's a little heavy. Who has lost loved ones to COVID? Okay. And Elder Penny, indirectly from the ministry, as an elder in the ministry, have you lost anyone? Has there been any life loss to COVID?
We've had members who have had family members that passed away, but no Victory and Praise member that's been reported has passed from COVID.
Thank you, God. So I asked those questions intentionally because I want to make sure that first, as we're kicking into this conversation, that no one has been exempt from it, whether or not you've had it firsthand, whether or not you've had a loved one, that had COVID, or whether you've lost loved ones to COVID. Everyone has been impacted by it some way, shape, or form. Tonight, I want us to lift up, how has the senior community been impacted by COVID? And that's anyone. Let's just start that conversation. How is the senior community impacted? I'm gonna start, Miss Bivens, since you're the specialist, we're gonna start with you. How have you seen the senior community impacted by COVID?
Well, when it first hit, we thought about making a plan, and basically, um, I'm a member of a sorority, and we have a lot of seasoned members. And so the first thing that came to mind is, make a plan. How do we reach our members that will be sheltered? And so we decided to have a phone tree, calling, just checking, welfare. How are you doing? Assigning a younger member to a seasoned member to call, to make those phone calls. And then, as you know, with the Zoom or the technology, we started having weekly get-togethers, just having fun, just um, playing games. Every time, every week, someone else would come up with a different. You would be the host, so that our members didn't feel so isolated.
Mm.
And at first, and if you will recall, it was a little difficult to get the vaccine. And one of my really good friends is Dr. Atashi Golden, and I don't know if you know her, but her focus was on. She said, "Luana, let's get all of the seniors. Let's get them scheduled, get them in here, because we're not going to get the vaccine as quickly as maybe some of the other folks."
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so we started just just calling our members, friends, saying, "Hey, you need to get this." Um,
Mhm.
and they were not. You might think that they would say, "Well, I'm not sure." But see, the thing about seasoned people, they've been through a pandemic before. This is not their first rodeo. So
Mhm.
they were just like, "Baby, if you want to come and pick me up, I'm a baby in that instance. Baby, if you want to come and pick me up, you know, I will be there. Tell me what my schedule." So we had her staff. I had volunteers from the NAACP calling, our senior members and members of organizations, and set it up that way. And we started to initially address our seasoned community because it was so important. So I don't want you to think that they were left behind. We were out there. That's probably the first community that we really thought about, uh,
Mhm.
just trying to make sure that that did happen. So that's how we initially got started. And I'll stop there because I can talk on.
Mrs. Bivens, I wanted to ask you a follow up question to that because you made a good point saying how they've been through pandemics before and this and that. So, do you feel like in the community they were more hesitant to get the vaccine, more reluctant to get the vaccine, or were they wanted to be first in line to get the vaccine since they've experienced pandemics before?
See, my experience was that they wanted to be first in line. They were
Mm-hmm.
not
Mm.
hesitant at all. Tell me when and where.
Yeah.
And they showed up, made their appointments. Some people we had to provide rides,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
so they were not hesitant at all.
So
Good.
you didn't have a lot of the reluctance within the senior community,
No.
not as much, and so you didn't deal with a lot of the stigma, and some of the false narratives, and all of the stuff. It's the mark of the beast. They're gonna put a chip in me or any of that.
And you know what? To be completely honest, I had people get upset with me because I couldn't get them appointments fast enough. To
Wow.
so so
Okay.
yeah.
And so, like Tuskegee never came up as well. Nobody
Not
mentioned.
not with the older population that we dealt with. That was not their issue. Their issue was that I might be 70 or 75, 80, and I'm relatively healthy, so I'm going to try to stay on top of this.
Hmm.
Mm.
Miss Toma, you came off of mute. Did you want to add to that? I'm not telling you to go back onto mute. Uh, Definitely not. So, Pastor Nelson, what about the Latino community? Was there hesitancy from the Latino community, from the seniors in the Latino community?
I think like Ms. Vivens was saying, many of them is not their first rodeo, but there was a back in 2020, if you remember, there was a concerted effort, particularly in areas where there was a high concentration of Latinos, like in Florida, where they were targeted through media. Like Latinos are one of the youngest, if not the youngest population in the U.S., use a lot of social media and the different social platforms, and they were targeted. Now, I have to say that that you might say hesitancy to get vaccinated was very present even among older, or you might say people above 50, 60. There were some, I did encounter some of those more seasoned people that were not very trustworthy. They didn't trust the vaccine, and it really took a lot of effort because we were actually countering a lot of media, social media efforts. It was connected, as you all know, with the sadly with the 2020 election. There was a lot of anti-vaccine or anti-vaxxer narratives coming forward in relationship to the election in back in November of 2020, and our people, the Latinx community, Latino community, was directly targeted. And the other thing is that among the people that I serve, mostly the migrant community here in the Central Valley, it's been very interesting. I have seen hesitancy among young people, middle-aged people, and senior people. It's very distributed. It has not been like one single group above the other. It's been all over the place, because, like I mentioned, from what the studies tell us, the Latino community uses a lot of media because obviously they're mostly migrant. They want to keep in touch with their families in their countries of origin. So they're constantly using media to keep in touch, to see how their parents are doing, or brothers or sisters, siblings, other extended family in their countries of origin. So they keep in touch a lot using social media, given the distance from their countries of origin. And so sadly, they were saturated with a lot of bad information. I have to admit, even I'm 49, and I remember seeing some of this stuff coming on my feed or on my Twitter account or my, different social platforms. And it was very interesting that there were some members of my congregation even that were uh, hard, you might say, hard to convince to get
Hmm.
vaccinated. It took a lot of effort, and I give thanks to God that my spouse, as you know, Tony, is not only a dentist, but she's also a epidemiologist. She has a master's degree in epidemiology and public health, and she's also bilingual. So she was able to communicate to the congregation from a highly educated point of view, but accessible at the same time, given the fact that she speaks the language to the people, and we were able to create those connections. But yeah, I mean, I saw the distribution across the spectrum, not
Hmm.
just like the senior people. I think seniors were. I saw uh, those who wanted to get it right away, but also those who were very hesitant.
So you guys had to do a little bit more outreaching when it came to
Yeah,
the senior community.
yeah,
I had to lean in really hard to listen to make sure that I ascribed meaning to what you were saying, because it stopped when you said you were 49, which meant you were younger than me. And so, but I'm gonna be okay. I'm recovering, from that as fast as I can. We'll talk about that again, Pastor Nelson, offline, right? Um, Elder Penny, I wanted to come to you, and the reason why I invited you into this space, Elder Penny, is because um, you and others really, really took on a very, very active role when it came to the senior community at Victory and Praise Church. And so Life in Season. Man, and they're active. So they meet y'all like regularly. They meet every week. They eat. If you hungry, go to a Life in Seasons meeting and you will get fed. Good food too. I mean, just saying. And they're gonna give you hugs and love on you and speak life to you and encourage you. And the pandemic came and it hit hard. And that right there. It hit hard. And our seniors, yeah. So like you guys had to kick into gear. So like what was that like for the seniors when coronavirus hit?
Yeah, it was scary. It was really scary for them because literally overnight everything stopped. Um, they had to stay in the house. They didn't understand. A lot of our seniors in our community, their kids live in the Bay Area or out of state. They don't. Not all of them have kids right here. So um, now you've got. I can't get to my family. My family can't get to me. I don't have a computer. I don't have internet.
Mm,
Um, and trying to how I can't go to the store. I can't. It was all of what they can't do in a matter of 24 to 48 hours. And when you get to a certain age, that's fight. What do you mean I can't, right? Well, I'm gonna go anyway. No, you're not gonna go, right? No, we will bring you food. So um, thank God that we were able to literally within the week of shutting, when the governor shut down the state the first time, start delivering food packages to the seniors, not just Victory and Praise seniors, but anyone who called, the seniors, handicapped, all of that vulnerable
mhm.
population, that they were like, no, stay in the house. Basically, you're going to die, right? Don't even risk it. Um, and so for most of 2020, we every week delivered um, groceries, a bag of groceries, door to door. It would take days and days for the
Okay.
outreach team to drive throughout the city of Stockton, because you're not just going to drop it off, right? You still got to check on them, pray with them, whatever. Do you have it? This is what we have, but what else do you need? Do you have internet? How are you? Do you have doctor's appointments? Do you need to get to the pharmacy to get your medication, right? Because again, they can't go anywhere. We don't want to encourage you to come out the house. We want
Wait,
you
wait.
in the house.
So other things then that you're raising up, I never even really considered. And I know that like doctor's appointments, medical. I'm talking about, just the reoccurring medical conditions and things that are going on. How do they navigate through that? How did you see some of them navigate through that?
A lot of them, they were fortunate their kids would, come run and leave an iPad on the porch for them, right? But then it was trying to teach them how to use the iPad, or um, get a smartphone sent to them.
Mhm.
So then having to walk them through this smartphone so that they could do telemedicine, which they're very paranoid about stuff on the internet because they don't
Oh,
want their identity stolen. They don't want,
so it's not just my daddy.
yeah, right. And so it was really challenging. And then it was the isolation, because I want to, when, we kept opening and closing and opening and closing.
Yeah.
Um, and every time they opened, it was like, no, 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 you all still need to stay in the house, right? We can come out, but
Mm.
you all still need to stay, because this was pre-vaccine. No, no, you can't come to church. We need you to stay at home. And so um, we had to move our small groups to Zoom platform. And that's when
Mhm.
Zoom was getting hacked and all kinds of crazy stuff, and seniors have no patience for that. They're like, look, make this work. So we would have people driving around trying to get them on the iPad in the middle of the small group because they were so isolated. Um, the isolation was, I think, for our population, was the worst. They were isolated, to the point where it's like, okay, we'll sneak and come put you in the car and just drive you around. Don't tell nobody, right? Just so you can get
Mm. Oh
care,
my goodness.
and
Wow.
we'll just drive you around town, right? The world is still here, right? Because if you think, a lot of them live alone, they're not in senior centers,
Right.
and you don't want them watching too much news. You don't want them to be afraid. You don't want that, right? So you have to combat that. the moment they could come out the house and come back to church. They were like, "We're coming back. We don't care what you say."
I want to continue.
Go ahead.
I want to touch on what you said. You made a good point. This is for my mom and for anybody. The isolation period. What do you think that did to the mental health?
It did a lot. Anxiety. They weren't sleeping well. Um,
Mm.
Fear, worry, and especially when Bishop Turner and Lady Turner got COVID.
Oh, you know what? I didn't even I don't even know. I hadn't. I
Yeah,
thought
but
about
that was
them
pre-vaccine. That was pre-vaccine. Um,
pre-vaccine.
that was
Pastor
pre-vaccine,
Cordell. Yeah.
and
So,
it just
whew,
so in that fear, right? Like, is the bishop going to die? And trying to make sure they're getting accurate information, right? Because that's their bishop, that's their pastor, that's their son, that's their brother, that's their uncle. Um,
mm,
and so it was a lot mentally. Isolation for a senior is one of the number one things now we know. It's always been going on, but we never paid attention to it. It is
right.
one of the number one issues that they struggle with is isolation. And so now we know to be more conscientious, to check on them. Just, quick, right? And listen. I don't care if it's the same story they've told 15 times. Take the
Mm,
time to listen because they need to know that they have connections outside of their children. We're talking about our church family, not
mhm.
their um, natural family. We're talking about the spiritual family. And they rely on us as much as they do their natural family because, again, most of them, their kids are in the Bay Area
Right.
or they were workers, essential workers, all right? So they're
Yeah.
nurses and working in the restaurants or working in the grocery stores, and so they can't know. I don't want to come to your house. I don't want to risk coming to see you.
Yeah.
So it's all of that standing on the porch and and waving all of that. So the missed holidays, their friends dying, right? Because people still died during the pandemic. People still died of other things, and not being able to mourn their friends and their family members who were just dying of other things other than COVID. It was a lot. It was a lot mentally for them.
My goodness. How are they? And then because there's some things that I do want to share in regard to what my experiences were as I was working with Faith in the Valley through in the beginning part of the pandemic. But this is what I want to ask you like right now is how the aftermath of that. How do you all deal with the trauma that was related to the pandemic, the fear of things shutting down again, the wear the mask, now don't wear the mask, now wear the mask, now don't wear the mask, now get a booster, get another booster. No, you don't need this booster. How are you all, Mrs. Bivens, Tama, Pastor Nelson, Elder Penny, I mean, how are you streamlining this information? Because I'm having to fight the news. My father is so engrossed in the news that it just vexes my soul that there's so many news outlets highlighting COVID and the pandemic to where it's all that you hear. And so he's trying to stay in touch with what's happening in other countries in order to brace for an impact here. So
I
how do you guys deal with the aftermath?
For us, we just partnered. At the end of last year, we were chosen to be a pilot site with AARP to do technology classes for seniors because we wanted them to be empowered. So they got these iPads, they got these smartphones. They still don't know how to use them. They just barely could get on Facebook, and that was it. And so we try to make sure that this or anything else, right? Electricity goes off, bad things happen. The Bible talks about what's going to happen in the last days. We want them to feel empowered,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to get information for themselves and not just talking heads. And so one of the classes that we're going to teach them, we just did a 10-week iPad class. Oh man, it was good. It was so good. It was so good. Woo, it was good. Um, 20 sessions in 10 weeks teaching them how to use an iPad. To God be the glory. But they did. They took pictures, they FaceTime, they created email addresses, they learned how to go on the internet, how to,
Did my dad go to this class?
did not. And take it
Now,
to
look, you know, I asked that question knowing the answer, right? I told Daddy,
we're gonna do it when we offer it again. We're gonna offer it again
okay.
in the fall.
Now, can I say this, Elder Penny? Now, can I lift up? So my father has conditions. He's diabetes, and irregular heart rhythms, just different things. And so there's like a double whammy. And so this really, really scared him in a very, very big, very profound way. The loss of lives, Bishop, Lady Trina, Pastor Thornell Clayton, others that he's watched. And so, Pastor Luana, I'm sorry. Look, don't we just Mrs. Bivens. I say Mrs. Bivens so I don't get in trouble, y'all. Mrs. Bivens.
She's speaking something to existence, Mrs. Bivens.
No, I ain't even trying to do it. She probably just been doing it and didn't have a title, and it's all good. So, but Mrs. Bivens, my dad was just so impacted by this that and church, that's his community, that's his family. My grandpa Wade, my grandma Kathy, this is their community, my mother. And so I'm lifting that up because this isolation that they went through, that they experienced, was like none other. Just really, really, fearful about getting out there and stuff. My dad hasn't fully recovered from that. So whereas people are going out, it's still he's still very afraid, to reconnect and to go back to the church. And just as soon as he goes to church, bam, somebody else was exposed and he's back home, back in isolation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I also want to concur with Elder Penny about the empowerment of a seasoned community, because um, that is what we did a lot of, training on how to use a computer, and having a lot of workshops and online. And a lot of our younger members were really good at helping to walk the seasoned person through how do you set up your phone, how do you set up your iPad. And I also love what I think it was, you, Elder Penny, when you talked about dropping the groceries off and just helping the seasoned community just kind of get through it so you don't feel isolated. But Tony, you also said, how do you with all the information coming in, should you have a second booster? Should wear a mask, not wear a mask? And
Mhm.
I can just speak for me and Mr. Billings. I said, we're just going to keep it consistent. We're going to wear our masks. I don't care where we go. And people a lot of times look at us crazy because we're the only two in the restaurant with our masks on, but it's okay. We take them off when it's time to eat, but it's okay. Uh, So consistency has worked for me in terms
Mhm.
of, especially with the mask, and um, being educated in COVID. And I do appreciate the fact that, God must have brought this ministry to me, because I have really learned a lot. And so I try to share that education with others and talk about how important it is to know, and how we as a community, because there are just, as Chris mentioned, just the horror of rumors that's out there. And don't think that we the NAACP we have not had to address so much of that. Um, and I've gotten into deep conversations with members of my immediate family, so I clearly understand it.
I want to pull Tama you into this conversation. Now, Tama, I'm pulling you in because you, poet laureate, with our words, stay around youth and teenagers and young adults. That's the population we started with. We had to have a COVID conversation called WTF hashtag. COVID WTF. They came in. What's the facts?
What's
But
the fact?
What's the facts? We, Mrs. Bivens, I'm just saying, they was like, what? And we had to do videos and all of this different stuff because them young folks was like, what? COVID? It's the mark of the beast. Y'all don't even go to church. Do you even believe? I don't even think that you saved. Have you ever read Revelations? Do you know anything of what you know about a beast? Okay, it's a chip in us. Isn't that phone that you got in your hand and never put down chip two? Aren't they tracking you? So we had to go through all of this stuff. But at the end of the day, oh, they just given me COVID. So you are surrounded by that population, immersed in
Yes. Yeah. I can tell you one of the threads running through this particular population was a sense of vindication and in your face, because as we shut down and schools went to hybrid learning, well, actually, no, hybrid learning came later. When we're doing online learning, guess what they all had to use? The same phones that they got in trouble with for having in class in the first place became their lifeline. The same technology that we kept saying, go outside and play, get your face out that screen. Guess what? The only thing that was their educational lifeline was their face in that screen and their face in that phone.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh.
yeah, was it a source of disinformation? Absolutely, but that wasn't their fault. That disinformation came from the top down as well from the bottom up. So, I mean, what were they to do? I mean, it's fortunate that we had these kinds of conversations to talk about the facts, the ABCs of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
It's still a challenge. But I think that now that so many of them went through the trauma of being fully isolated from their class and classmates, and probably a good third of them having to survive the trauma of being at home, because one of the unspoken and underspoken effects of the pandemic and the isolation is that we had vulnerable people with no way to escape an abusive environment.
Yeah.
And so we have our court systems clogged with 19 different kinds of abuse. We've got child abuse, we've got domestic abuse, we've got elder abuse. And I think as we start to excavate that data, we're going to see direct correlations to the enforced isolation brought on by this pandemic and this particular effect. And so we've got kids that had nowhere to go.
So, Tama, you are always first and foremost going to advocate and speak on behalf of the kids and the youth. That's you, period, to the core of your being. That's what you do all the time, every day. My question to you is, senior woman,
Ma'am.
how did you, senior woman, navigate in and out from a space where you were constantly being exposed to COVID by young people that thought they were invincible? How were you able to mentally and spiritually and emotionally go in and out of that space, and because that's a constant state of vulnerability.
It was, and it is. It's not lost on me that I made it through the entire pandemic. Vaccine boost 1, boost 2, spending a weekend with grandbears that with COVID everywhere, laying on me, smooching on me, and still not getting it. Only last month for Manaya to come in and lay in my lap. I got a cold. I don't feel good. 24 hours later, she tests positive. 24 hours later, after that, I test positive. Not only do I have COVID, but I'm irritated. I think
How long did Manaya have COVID?
5 days.
How long did you have COVID?
a year and 30. You already know. I am just getting back into society. And here's the cold part. This is where I had to tell God he wasn't nearly as funny as he thought he was. Because when you have COVID, sometimes you lose your appetite. You don't feel like eating anything, but you need to keep your strength up. So I said, let me just get a little bit of protein. And so I was nibbling on peanut butter and crackers. Can't be much more innocuous than that. Only to find out, why is everything feeling like worse? The fever's not going away. I know this is COVID. Long story short, I'm eating Jif. Jif just recalled all of its peanut butter because it had salmonella. So I have salmonellosis and COVID.
Yes, you did.
Yes, I was irritated and sick. How did I get through all of that? I wasn't feeling as isolated as everybody else because I kept working. Because I'm not technology averse. Because I do have to work with young people, and this is their primary means of communication. And so I was doing online classes, and I was producing live events for artists across the country. And so I was staying connected not only with my family, but with my immediate community and a national community. So I never felt the claustrophobia of the isolation, and I didn't feel the fear of it. The pandemic for me was just a time to sit and monitor, and I get what Ollie is doing, because I was monitoring information left and right, because information was our lifeline, and knowing how to read the lines and in between the lines to find out what the facts were and who had an interest in getting truth out there and who had interest in not getting truth out there. That sometimes was the difference between life and death. Because I think we forget how many people were dying every day. We were losing populations like 9/11 every day. And that was before, and we had no vaccine on the horizon. So I get the need for there to be a hypersensitivity to information. But as for the isolation part of it, how did I get through it? It wasn't a huge challenge because I was conversant with the tools, and I wasn't by myself. I had one or two people with me at all times.
Okay.
I could have stand have not one with me this last month, but that's another story.
Mrs. Bivens, I see your hand. Elder Penny, I also know that you need to tap out as well. And so I wanted to make sure that if it's okay, Mrs. Bivens, Elder Penny, is there anything else that you wanted to add or say before you tap out?
Thank you for this conversation. And I want us as a community to not forget. I think Americans have short memories, right? We forget and go on. And Governor Newsom said this is an endemic. It's like now we've got to learn how to live with it. And we keep seeing the numbers tick back up. Like COVID is not here. COVID is still here. We just have to faith, yes, but faith without works is dead, right? So yes, like Mrs. Bivens says, yeah, now I got to get masks back into the congregation because it's starting to pop up again. Now we got to, be a little bit careful because we just got lax because we thought COVID, ran away. No, COVID's still here. She's still sitting here. And so we just have to tame it and believe God that it's going to go away or it's not. I mean, there are polio, all of that stuff goes away. But until she does, we have to be careful. And especially for our seniors.
And Mrs. Bivens, do you think that COVID is still, that the senior community, the senior population is still the most vulnerable population when it comes to COVID?
Well, that's a good question. I think we all are. I mean,
Mm,
I yeah, I do. But I did have something burning I wanted to
mhm,
share regarding pre-vaccination.
mhm.
Something that was really, I know, difficult for my husband and myself was not being able to see the grandkids in person. That was difficult because our daughter is one of she's in education around kids all the time, and so she told all the other kids, the grandkids can come around, and so that was probably the worst thing for us anyway.
Good.
Is
That
not
was actually one of my questions I wanted to ask you guys. Sorry, I was having some technical difficulties earlier. But how were you guys dealing with not being able to see close family and friends, not being able to spend the holidays with them, and, not being able to physically touch them and have them come visit you?
yeah.
How did that affect you? How did that affect your loved ones close to you? Because even the kids, the grandbabies had to suffer by not seeing you guys. So, was it something that you guys would do as far as drive by, come see us, or Zoom?
Yeah. I think all of it, but the hardest part was, and you mentioned it, the drive by, kids outside waving to you. It just broke my heart. Um,
Mm.
that was very difficult. But our family started having family Friday night mixers on Zoom. So, you know, and some of our sons are on the East Coast, so it kind of that really helped. That was fun. But the the grandkids that are here, and just to do that drive by, you seeing them outside, and you can't, you know, I want them to come in so I can get a hug, and they can get a hug. So that was really difficult.
I
I
would like to
didn't.
share. I'm sorry.
Oh no,
You,
I was just going to say, Pastor Nelson, I didn't see my family. I live alone. I didn't see my family, my children, my grandchildren for an entire year
Mhm.
in person for an entire year. I suffer from OCD and from anxiety, trauma related anxiety. And so it kicked into high gear. And an entire year, an entire year, we would check in on social media. We would check in, they would video chat with Zoom. I didn't see my grandchildren. My daughter had my grandson during the pandemic. Champagne had her first child. The plan was for me to be there, Mrs. Bivens. I could not be there. There was an accident, and there was a lot of trauma associated with the accident, and I was not able to be present for that to get to the East Coast. It was tension between my children and I because they knew that a lot of my lack of socialization was associated with the anxiety that I have, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to press through it. So they literally said, "We're coming over whether or not you want us to or not,"
Mhm.
because it's been a year,
I had
and
to do
I haven't
that.
seen my son in person, like touched my son, in 2 years.
Mm.
So, over time, how did you learn to deal with it? What were you doing? How were you guys, you know?
It took,
Think-
I think, some of the fortitude of the younger ones.
Mhm.
So that's when you see, I don't know, the creativity, Mrs. Bivens, of our youth.
Mhm.
That's when my children was like, enough is enough. We're gonna do this. And the grandbabies was, they were there's just granny. I think that once they broke that barrier, that it made a lot easier. it made it easier the next time and next time. And to be frank with you, once I was exposed to COVID, um, yeah, and I know that I didn't have like long COVID, um, and and I've done a lot in order to make sure that to do what I could. I've done my part. I'm doing my part to be healthy, and to deal with some of the comorbidity issues that I've had. Once I was exposed to COVID and made it through that, because having COVID is one thing, having COVID and being alone,
There's another.
that's a whole nother. Now we can stop talking.
I, I,
That's
I had
the
I had a question too. Was that after you got your vaccine, so let's say like younger family members didn't get the vaccine, was it hard to say like you can't come over until you're vaccinated, or did you just let that slide, or how did you handle that situation?
yes. Go ahead, Pastor Mrs. Bivens.
I just wanted to share a story of as you were talking about situation for seniors. I remember back prior to the vaccine being made available, through the funding that we distributed with Faith in the Valley, we were able to reach out to a complex where there were migrants who were, including a woman who was 65, um, you know, still working on the fields, picking up grapes or picking up different produce and packing. And she depended so much on the community around her. She got COVID very badly. Financially, she lives by herself. Um, and actually, she was on the news because of the situation. The Spanish media picked up her story as well because of the situation she was in. But it was like you were saying, Tony and Mrs. Vivens, that and some of the others, that the the community had to step in. Community had to really take a bigger role, and provide for them and help them and accompany them. And it was truly wonderful. She lives in Stockton near. It's like an area where each person has. There's about 6 or 7 on each side, like little apartments. There's a one-room apartment. They pay about $500 for rent and for one person. So she lives by herself. She has no family here, and she depends on her church family and her neighbors to basically to survive. And it was very important for some of those that funding back in 2020, 2021, when the pandemic was at its highest in terms of not having better protection with the vaccines, and the exposure was quite high, given the fact that people were not protected as we are now. That and the mortality rate was so high, right? And it was important for me to see how the community really responded. In this case, the migrant community, the solidarity among them, the fact that they moved. They were the ones who told us we have a member of our community that's a senior. She's still working. She's by herself. She has no families here. We She needs help, and we're providing the basics, but we need extra help. So it was, I think, part of what we can learn from this. When you were talking about this in a season perspective, for me is that we need to create those connections now. So for the next one or the next big wave that may come our way, I think that's super important. Like what we're doing right now, what you have allowed us to do here, Tony, is to start creating those connections so that we know we can rely on each other for information, for where to go, what to do, how to respond, what to encourage in the community. I think that's super important, particularly among, and I say this as both as a black Puerto Rican, among the African American community, the Latinx community. We need those connections. So I think this is super important, especially now.
Mm. And when you were saying connections, I want to make sure that people know that um, if you are interested in just learning more, about and just getting more education, more information. If you are clergy that wants to have any type of educational workshop or information, that you can reach out to. I put Chris's information up here. You can reach out to Chris. I know that Chris and Pastor Nelson work in partnership a lot when it comes to some of the things, that are being done within the clergy. If there's a clergy space that wants a workshop or something. And so I put Chris's information up there. Chris, go and wave your hand again so folks know that's Chris. Um, in order for you to reach out to him to gather that information. And then if you also want to, especially if you are Spanish speaking too, I want to make sure that you all are able to connect with Pastor Nelson. And he and his wife, Fabiola, they are able to um, connect with you and make sure that you get information, get the education, or connect you to resources if you're not sure how to get those resources. So do not hesitate to email Pastor Nelson Rabel, and he will make sure that you get connected to information and resources that you need. Um, yep, thank you so much. Look, they just dropping information quick, fast, and in a hurry. In order for you to connect with, and I'm going to drop this in the chat as well. Um, Mrs. Luana Bivens, do you want to just kind of, as I'm putting that out there, I'm going to share information for the NAACP. And is there anything in particular that you just want to highlight or lift up as far as what the NAACP is doing surrounding COVID and information?
Yes, we're doing a lot, but coming this weekend at Juneteenth, we will be honoring Black fathers with a free photo shoot. And it's our goal to use those, eventually, those fathers who have um, received their vaccination. We're going to put their pictures on some of the RTD buses in Stockton, um, African American fathers and Black fathers for good health. And so we're really excited about that.
Mm.
Want to encourage as many fathers to come and get a free photo shoot for you and your family. So we're just we try it all. We have pop-up clinics throughout the city. We continuously have we're having um, educational talks with our members, sending out e-blasts weekly, just keeping that information flowing. So if you need resources, the NAACP is happy to provide that to you. We give out a lot of incentives just trying to get our people vaccinated, and and just getting the education behind it. I think education is first. So we do a lot of that. We don't mandate it. We say, here are the choices. And so there's just a lot to do, to continue doing. And someone said it, COVID is not going away. So we cannot let up. We must continue to keep our community informed and addressing this from an educational perspective so that people can make wise decisions about their lives and their
Mm.
choices.
Amen. Uh, can I say just a quick word? As you all know, this week the vaccine for children 6 and under has been approved. I think that's going to be the next wave. And I know we're talking about the impact of seniors, but for the most part, like some seniors have actually gotten the COVID transmitted by younger
Right.
people. It's very important to vaccinate our kids, and hopefully, I believe the San Joaquin County will start next week with vaccinations, and I think that's go- that has to be now our like big next step. I saw the latest numbers I saw for San Joaquin children. was about, ages 11 and under, about only barely 23-24% were vaccinated. So it's very low in comparison to the rest of the population, where African Americans and Latinx are, we're in the high 40s, almost 50%. But our children are far behind, so we need to highlight that as well.
And Chris, do you want to go ahead and lift up the information that you're sharing with me as well, please?
Yeah, most definitely. This Saturday at Juneteenth Festival at Weber Point Park, we'll be out there alongside NAACP and the Whole Life Center, Millennium Adams Whole Life Center. We'll have the vaccine van out there with raffles. But not just the vaccine van, we'll also have a testing site out there too. In addition to that, we'll also have tabling, right? Just come visit our table to get information because we're all about education. And if you do stop by our table, or if you get vaccinated, or if you get tested, you go to a raffle for a prize. We'll have like air fryer, Keurig, and like a Beats pill. If you just stop by and get information, you can still enter the raffle. So we'll be out there this Saturday at Juneteenth Festival.
All right. So I'm putting that in. If I spell anything wrong, y'all don't be mad at me because, I just have spelling issues. So I dropped also just on the bottom, you're still able to actually order tests, I believe, in order for them to be sent. And so I wanted to make sure that we are aware of that. You can still go to the website, sjready.org, in order to get updates on the latest COVID, the numbers, all of the information that is COVID related. It's still important that you stay in the know. It's still important that you stay abreast of what is going on. Yes, the numbers are going up. Right now, they've been peaking for a minute, especially with the summer season. It is important that you wear your masks. If you are sick, make sure that you take a COVID test. Take a rapid test. If you need a rapid test, hey, reach out to your sister Queen over here. She will make sure that you get access to a rapid test. Let me go ahead and drop my information in here. Tony at faithinthevalley.org. Hit me up. Email me. I will make sure if we don't have tests, I promise you, I know how to get them. My kids was like, Mom, who do you know? Y'all like got access to stuff we can't even get. But yes, you want to make sure that you're getting access to that information that you need or the resources that you need. I also want to make sure that you all know next, is it in a couple of weeks, Chris? Did we lock in our date for our next COVID conversation? Because it's going to be a good one.
I don't think we have the date set. I think we're looking at July, end of July.
We have July 16th, but I don't know.
July 16th is on hold, but it's tentative. So I want you to know this. So in that one, we will be letting you know 2 weeks in advance when it's coming. It is going to be a doozy because we are going to be talking about the mark of the beast. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I figured since y'all want to talk about it, let's talk about it. So our next COVID conversation is going to be about the mark of the beast.
Thank you for the notice so I can get my popcorn and red wine.
Same here.
Yeah. Right? We trying to bring experts in here in order to talk about it. If we're going to talk about it, let's really talk about it. So you want to know about the mark of the beast? And if it is the mark of the beast, and if you know who originated the narrative about the mark of the beast, please hit me up or hit up Chris, because we would really love to, have a research meeting with them in order to get some real concrete information. Yes. So anything else, Chris, Mary, that y'all want to
No, that's all I have. Thank you for being here today. I appreciate it.
Yes, I don't have anything. And thank you guys so much for taking the time to come with us tonight.
Thank you all, and many blessings.
Anytime. Thank you for inviting us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Seniors, stay safe. If you have any questions, please reach out to Mrs. Bivens, Chris Cannon, or myself, and we'll point you in the right directions. Vaccine is going to be at the Juneteenth festival, and so is they'll be able to get vaccinated, COVID tested. So come on out there, do what you need to do, but and stay safe. Stay safe. Amen.
Amen.
Look, all hearts and minds clear. Can I say that? It's still in me, Chris. It's still in me.
No, I do it too at my meetings. I do it too. Yeah.
All right, y'all. I love you guys. Peace and blessings.
Love you
see
too.
Peace. Bye
Good
bye.
night.
Bye-bye. Good night.
Good night.